to you both. Congressman Bob McEwen, to you first of all, just pick up on that COVID-19 point. Arguably, part of Trump's loss was down to the way that COVID-19 was handled.
Well, yes, because there certainly wasn't anything that they could abuse him on the growth in the economy, the improvement in the trade with China, where China has now gone down 47%, and our stock market's gone up 50. Not foreign policy with the success in the Middle East. The only horse they had to ride, and they rode it all day, every day, with the media's help, was to say that a person in office was responsible for someone that was losing their
right. But he was responsible for the response to it, wasn't he? Because we had another election taking place in another different country just a month or so ago, where Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, who also faced during her time in office the COVID-19 pandemic, dealt with it in a very different way, and was rewarded with a landslide victory for her party.
Yeah, I'm not sure she handled it any differently.
You're not sure she handled it any differently? There have been more cases of COVID in the White House than there are in the entirety of New Zealand.
Well, they're 99.8% recovery because of the research that has been done. There's going to be a vaccination shortly. The investment has taken place.
Right.
So
just because, yes, are you saying that New Zealand and the USA have handled COVID equally well?
Yes.
You are saying that? Okay.
Yes.
Bernard Whitman, former pollster for Bill Clinton and Democratic strategist, joining me this morning. Bernard, on the COVID point, what do you make of this idea that it happened and that no politician could reasonably have been expected to deal with it differently?
With all due respect, I don't know what alternative universe the congressman is living in, but he obviously is living in the same one that Donald Trump is. 238,000 Americans have died, 10 million cases. It is getting worse and worse. A vaccine is not around the corner. That's not true. And the one thing that Joe Biden can do that Donald Trump refused to do, which would have been the easiest thing to do, is wear a mask, follow the science, show some leadership, show some compassion.
Sorry, Congressman, what did you say?
And a program.
Yes, the mask, the mask with holes that are 1,100 times larger than the virus, that'll stop it.
Congressman, with respect, of course, and I'm no scientist, and you're no scientist either, but it's pretty clear, isn't it, that when we talk about masks stopping the virus, we're stopping the droplets in which the virus is contained, which is much, much, much bigger than the measurements you've just outlined. I mean, that's basic science around which we can presumably all coalesce, isn't it?
Well, and those that have enforced it, those that haven't, there's no deviation. But just for example, these numbers, in America, we have usually 40 to 60,000 deaths per year from the flu. Thus far, we've had 61. Now, why is that? Because the classification of any death is going to be in COVID. So,
you know what? I'm not going to participate in this debate. If you are going to use this platform to spread misinformation and disinformation, which could harm people's lives, I will hang up the phone now. This is an absolute outrage. I cannot participate in this. It is a whitewashing.
All right, listen. I want to move away from COVID. I think it was worth just getting into the conversation at that point, Congressman. I've said what I think of your claim that masks don't work because the particles are too small to be prevented by the mask. I think that is nonsense in the context of the fact that most transmission happens through droplets which emerge from people's mouths. So let's move on then. Let's move on to the results as we now see them. Congressman Bob McEwen, why do you think, if it wasn't COVID, why do you think that Donald Trump has become the first one-term president in 30 years?
Well, the idea that was the main issue is the fact that that's what they wrote. But also, as you can see, the targeting that's taking place in 5 particular states in which the numbers are now skewed and which are going to be revealed beginning tomorrow morning. That there were 4 major cities in which the tallies stopped in the middle of the night. Question would be why, not in any place else in the country. And then the numbers that began to come in, such as in Wisconsin, the numbers that were delivered anonymously, lo and behold, the turnout was over 90%, which has never happened in the history of our country. The turnout supposedly of Mr. Biden that was lower throughout the rest of the country, but in these key places, he outpolled Obama. The inconsistencies are so dramatic that they were going to be addressed over this next
as I
couple of
understand
weeks.
it, the Trump campaign have actually seen a marginal increase in the vote share in urban areas across the USA compared with 2016. So you have to wonder what sort of conspiracy against Donald Trump would have that effect. Bernard Whitman, former pollster for Bill Clinton and Democratic strategist, are you nervous? Because this isn't yet done and dusted, is it? The states have to certify, the college has to vote, but of course we do have these legal challenges to wade through. How concerned are you by those?
I'm concerned that President Trump and supporters like the congressman need to put on their big boy pants and recognize that this was a referendum on Donald Trump, first and foremost a referendum on his handling of the coronavirus and the resulting devastation economically and throughout social justice that this has caused. Take some responsibility for your failed policies and move on. You know, what I'm concerned about is giving Joe Biden some chance to bring this country together, to begin to start to heal, to let the grim era of demonization end here and now. Let's stick to the facts. Let's stick to science. He lost the election, Donald Trump did. We need to move on. We need to heal. We need to bring the country together. We need to work across the aisle. But it's impossible to work with other people on the other side if they fundamentally don't believe facts and don't believe science. The time for the spread of misinformation and belief and just whatever I believe, I'm just going to say, and it's fact, has got to end. We have to agree on facts.
Yeah. Well, Hillary said that under no circumstances should Biden concede the election. So it is appropriate that
Hillary's not on the ballot. Obama's not on the ballot.
We should
Joe
continue.
Biden and Joe Biden
we should continue until the ballots are done, and to focus on the issues, which is why he did as well as he did. He led in every conceivable way. This man trailed throughout the country, except in the key states where they're now being contested, where the ballots were shut down and suddenly began to appear in these enormous numbers, not in Chicago, not in Los Angeles, not in Dallas or other places. Those places he trailed. Suddenly he gets this overwhelmingly dump of non-registered voters, of people that were the mail-in voters, not the absentee and not the people that showed up. The people that showed up across the country was nearly 2-1 in favor of the president.
Why are you implying? Why are you implying?
His supporters not to vote by mail. He told his supporters don't vote by mail. So why would they vote by mail? They wouldn't. It was his fault. It was a stupid strategy. Knowing there's a pandemic and people are concerned about their health, why tell people to not vote in a safe way? He is responsible for his own defeat.
Bernard, I think that is absolutely clear and that is correct. And the implication, I think, as well, that people who vote by mail votes somehow ought to be worth less than people who vote on the day is extraordinary as well. But let me ask you this, Bernard.
It's totally incorrect. It's totally incorrect.
Sorry, what is incorrect?
The fact is that voting absentee, you request a ballot, it comes directly to the person who requested it. They compare the address and the signatures. Voting by mail is where they mail out tens of thousands to everybody in the world. Sometimes
tens of thousands to everybody in the world.
Those are live ballots.
Those are live ballots.
I'm sorry, no, Congressman, this is preposterous. It is not the case that tens of thousands of ballots are mailed out to everybody in the world. This is as ridiculous as Rudy Giuliani suggesting that Joe Biden might have voted 10,000 times for all we know, or 50,000 times for all we know. Well, he said that, didn't he?
There were hundreds of thousands that were mailed out in these various states. That
was the law. That was the law, and it's been the law.
And
certain states where everybody gets a ballot.
Those were live ballots that are laying around. You could bring them in mass. You don't know who they belong to. There's no identification.
So show us the proof.
There's no registration.
If this is true,
and that's where the distortion took place.
Congressman, this is where the Trump campaign has gone wrong, isn't it? Because the Trump campaign has fired up all of these lawsuits without any evidence. You've engaged all of these lawyers who've said, yeah, by all means, bring us on as a retainer. Now, of course, the fact that no evidence is emerging. How many cases have been lost now? Is it 9 and counting thus far?
No, they haven't even filed. They're filing tomorrow.
Right, so there have not been cases that have been thrown out already. That's just not true. Cases have been chucked out already over the last couple of days. Bernard, I want to ask you, though, I mean, in the interest of some kind of balance here, you are a Democratic strategist. Just zoom out a little bit here. The result must be at least a little bit disappointing compared with expectations. You probably weren't expecting 6 days after the election to still be tussling over this. You wanted a clean win on the night, and you certainly didn't want to lose seats in the House. And you certainly had a good shot, I think, at winning a majority in the Senate, and none of that has gone your way. I get that you're relieved that Joe Biden is the president-elect, but you must be disappointed by the meal he's made of it, aren't you?
Well, it is a sobering reminder that in this country, we are more divided than ever. We are more divided than we were in 2016 when Hillary barely lost. We're more divided now than we were then when Joe Biden now has barely won. What does this mean? We likely will, in fact, lose a couple seats in the House of Representatives. I think we'll gain one or two in the Senate. I don't think we'll take the Senate, but here's what it means. It means we actually have to work together. It means we have to reach across the aisle. And I believe, based on Joe Biden's history and his character and his experience and what he's done over decades and decades and decades, he is the guy who actually can bend the arc, who can lower the temperature, who can actually get things done. And it's going to Democrats to moderate. You know, it is. We're going to have to be more moderate in our initial proposals. We're going to have to get Republican support. By the way, Mitt Romney and Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, Susan Collins, who I wish had been thrown out. She's not. She's going to be still in her seat in Maine. We're going to have to work with these, Ben Sass from Nebraska and others, fair-minded individuals, to get the work done for the American people. And you know what? I welcome that. Do I wish we had a Senate majority? You betcha. But the fact that we don't is going to cause us to have to be more practical and more forward-thinking and more collegial, and to bring a little comity and working in tandem instead of demonizing all over again.
Gentlemen, thank you both. Congressman Bob McEwen, former Republican congressman for Ohio, former U.S. representative to the European Parliament, and Bernard Whitman, former pollster for Bill Clinton and Democratic strategist, both joining me this morning. Doesn't really feel or sound as if there's much reaching across the aisle taking place yet, but it is worth remembering that Joe Biden's been around for a long time. He's been a senator for a long time. He has made contacts in the Senate and presumably friendships across the aisle as well. Now, whether that means that Mitch McConnell